Krishna, Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Sodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Sodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Sodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Sodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pavrikacharya Satira Sada Shishimada's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikashi Kushaitanya Prabhu Nityananda she'd wait to get out Harshivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Jai Radha Krishna Gopa Gopana Shai Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 51, and this is verse 38, and this is the deliverance of King Muchukunda. Kala Trayopapanani Janma Karmani Me Nirpa Anukramanto Naivantam Gajanti Paramarshaya Kala Trayopapanani Janma Karmani Me Nirpa Anukramanto Naivantam Gajanti Paramarshaya Kala Trayopapanani Janma Karmani Me Nirpa Anukramanto Naivantam Gajanti Paramarshaya Kala Trayopapanani Janma Karmani Me Nirpa Akaranto Maivantam Gajanti Paramarshaya Kala Trayopapanani Anukramanto Naivantam Gajanti Paramarshaya Kala Trayopapanani Janma Karmani Me Nirpa Anukramanto Naivantam Gajanti Paramarshaya. Ladies. Kala Trayopapanani Janma Karmani Me Nirpa Anukramanto Naivantam Gajanti Paramarshaya. Kala Trayopapanani Janma Karmani Me Nirpa Mama Gajantu Naivantam Gajanti Paramarshaya. Kala of time, Traya in three phases, past, present, and future. Upapanani occurring. Janma, births. Karmani, and activities. Me, my. Nirpa, O King Muchakunda. Anukramanta, enumerating. Na, not. Eva, at all. Antam, the end. Gachanti, reach. Parama, the greatest. Rishaya, sages. Translation by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. O King, the greatest sages enumerate my births and activities which take place throughout the 3 phases of time, but never do they reach the end of them. Please repeat. O King, the greatest sages enumerate my births and activities which take place throughout the 3 phases of time, but never do they reach the end of them. And there's no purport by Srila Prabhupada's disciples, but there are 2 comments, 2 commentaries, one by Jiva Goswami and one by Sanat Goswami, which I'll read. Srila Jiva Goswami says, the greatest sages, even knowers of Vedanta, successfully cannot count my births and activities, birth, names, and qualities which appear in the past, present, and future. Yato vacho nivartante. The Lord cannot be fully described by words. And that is from the Taittiriya Upanishad. Sanatana Goswami writes, the sages count my birth and activities taking place in past, present, and future, and cannot reach the end. The qualities are even more. That means, the births are a lot, and the qualities are even more. Gunat manaste pi gunan vimantum. It is impossible to count the qualities of you who are composed of all good qualities. And that's a quote, or a quote from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-7. That's Lord Brahma's prayers, from Lord Brahma's prayers. Since the names arise from the qualities and activities, they are also unlimited. The births are unlimited because the Lord appears many times over time, and there are various forms which are many. The extent of time is unlimited. Counting in order, the great sages like Bhrigu find that there is no end. O King, you can understand this, since many great sages have gathered here because of your being a great king. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyanan Gyanan Shalakaya Shakshu Unmilitangena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yeno Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Vadaya Krishna Pastai Bhutale Srimati Bhakta Vedanta Swamini Tadamani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharani Nirvasesa Shunyavadi Paschadeshchani Vanchakalpa Charubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyepacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we're in the cave, the meeting between King Muchakunda and Krishna. And they're introducing themselves, so to speak. And, of course, Muchakunda has just performed the task of killing Kalyavana, who was blessed by Gargya that he couldn't be killed by anyone in the Yadu dynasty. So Krishna, being in the Yadu dynasty, technically couldn't kill him. And Krishna didn't want to touch such a person anyway because he was a Yavana. So it was arranged so Muchakunda would kill him when he glanced upon him in the cave after being awakened very roughly by Kalyavana. And then Muchukunda proceeds to introduce himself, and now the Lord is speaking about himself, because Muchukunda, although he's a pure devotee and certainly is qualified to understand who the Lord is, he's taking the part of someone who doesn't really completely understand, and therefore the Lord is speaking about himself in very explicit terms. And the points being made here is that Krishna is beyond our calculation. I hope that many of you were able to hear Mother Irmela's very wonderful class on Monday, where she spoke about the previous verse, 37, and she then gave a really very nice PowerPoint presentation about the 64 qualities of Krishna. Well, those 64 qualities of Krishna, which are found in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion, they're the prominent ones. But Krishna really has unlimited qualities. And by unlimited, that really means there is no number. And that's inconceivable, actually, for those of us who are living in the world of limitations. And I'd like to actually take a look at Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 14, Verse 7. Mother Irmela also took a look at this verse. It's a very important verse, because Lord Brahma is expressing here the absolute futility in trying to count the Lord or measure the Lord. How can that be done? I'll just read the English. In time, learned philosophers or scientists might be able to count all the atoms of the earth, the particles of snow, or perhaps even the shining molecules radiating from the sun, the stars, and other luminaries. But among these learned men, who could possibly count the unlimited transcendental qualities possessed by you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who have descended onto the surface of the earth for the benefit of all living entities? And this is what the scientists do. They're just trying to enumerate, count, find, somehow or other try to order everything. And the more they do so with all their instruments, the more they find out that they can't do anything. I mean, it's like someone thinking that the town of Hillsborough was everything because it's all they could see. So they have some vision, but they can't see everything, and it's just overwhelming. One scientist estimated, I mean, this shows you, that they're actually in their own ways on the right page, although they don't acknowledge that everything emanates from Krishna. Says that there's certainly more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on the earth. So think about that. Just go to Wrightsville Beach, and try to count a bucket of sand. You'll be spending the rest of your life on a bucket. So what to speak of every grain of sand everywhere? So they're admitting that it's uncountable. Yet they still try to count. And this is the desire of the mental speculators, is that although they know that ultimately reality, Krishna, who they don't want to admit, is unknowable, yet they still try to measure it, try to find it, try to somehow get it under their control. One of the meanings of Maya is to measure. In Maya, we try to measure everything. How far this is, how much this weighs, how deep that is, how cold this is, whatever. We try to measure everything. But it's stated here by Lord Brahma that maybe you might even get to the point where you could actually, count the photons coming off the sun. No one's ever going to do that. It's impossible. At every second, there are so many particles of sunlight hitting the earth. I mean, you can't, and we can't see them anyway, the particles, but they are particles. And they're trying to measure, even if they could do that, which is beyond their ability, there's certainly no ability, they have no ability to understand Krishna, who is the origin of all these incredibly inconceivable material things. That's how hard it is to understand who Krishna is. Prabhupada has something to say about this in some classes that he spoke on Bhagavad Gita in one class in Hyderabad. And this is all about mental speculation, because this is really the verse that today is dealing with Krishna basically saying, mental speculation can't possibly understand me, because my qualities, Brigu and all the sages have been counting, and they never come to the end. On the transcendental platform, we have Anantashesh, who is holding all the universes on his hoods, and he's speaking the glories of Krishna, and he never comes to an end. Prabhupada speaks in Hyderabad in 1972. This is on Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse number 23. We are simply calculating. He may be 1 inch greater than me, or 1 foot greater than me. That is mental speculation. Therefore, Krishna says, Manushanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhaye. Bhagavad Gita 7.3. Out of many Prabhupada actually says, out of many millions of men, one may try to make his life successful, understanding the absolute truth. And yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam vedi tattvatata. It's very rare that these persons are looking for the absolute truth. So we cannot understand God by our mental speculation. Neither can we understand what is the measurement of the soul. The soul. What is the soul? 1/10,000th tip of a hair. Well, that, as Prabhupada would say, and many times he said, this is a crude example. He would give an example of a king or something like that. And he would say, a crude example, meaning this is basically a materialistic example to try to describe something that's beyond our material understanding. 1/10,000th tip of a hair is meant to say, soul's so small you can't find him. But it's not like a tip of the hair. A tip of the hair is still material. An atom is still material. Soul is spiritual. One doctor in the 1970s, he was a heart surgeon, and he noticed that he could actually see when a person died, because sometimes people will die on the operating table, and he noticed he could actually see, at a moment when the soul left. He was perceiving that, and it confused him. And he actually wrote to Prabhupada, because somehow or other he heard about Prabhupada, and said, what's going on here? And Prabhupada said, well, the soul leaves the body, but the soul lives in the heart and can't be measured. You can never find the soul. You can cut the heart up. You can look in the heart, but you're not going to find the soul. It's not like in the left ventricle or something. No. The soul is this transcendental to this material body and cannot be measured, cannot be found by any material means. So the doctor wrote back and forth with Prabhupada, and in the end, the conversation ended. But he really knew, he could see a difference, and we can see a difference too, between a dead body and a sleeping body, or a comatose body. So Prabhupada goes on to speak. That is not possible to understand the measurement of the soul. Therefore, we have to take information from the highest authority, Krishna. What is the nature of God? What is the nature of the absolute truth? What is the nature of the soul? We have to hear. We have to hear. Therefore, the Vedic literature is called Shruti. You cannot make an experiment. That is not possible. But unfortunately, there is a section of people that think that they can make experiment, that they can know the absolute by mental speculation. And this mental speculation, comes in different forms. Today, scientists are our great mental speculators. In previous times, it was philosophers, Mayavadis, who were, speculating, trying to find or measure God. And when they tried to measure God, because they couldn't measure him, they said, he's zero. We can't find him anywhere. So therefore, he's zero. And therefore, and because we also feel that we know, in a sense, that that we're not of this world, and we're eternal. Oh, he's zero, and I feel that I'm eternal. Therefore, QED, I'm God, and that's zero. So that's what mental speculation will actually derive at that point, is that we can't understand God, therefore he either doesn't exist, like the scientists, or he's nothing, like the Mayavadis. Prabhupada, speaking in New York City in 1966, one of his first classes. So the Lord says, Kaman sarvam parta manogatan, the mental speculation. So long we are on the platform of mental speculation, we should understand that we are on the material plane, because the mind is material. Mind is not spiritual. Can't understand Krishna with a material device. So, manogatan. The special word is used here, manogatan. Whatever we create in our mind, that is material. All creations. So sometimes the Christians or different religionists, they'll imagine who God is. Oh, he's very old. He must have a beard. He must be sitting on a throne. He's judging everyone. Oh, and therefore he's a judge. And therefore sometimes, we get these, when we were on Sankirtan, we would get the Christians handing out these little tracts to us. Sometimes I even get them now. Sometimes someone hands it to me. And it'll show, among other things, God or a person on a throne with no face. And people below it like this, being judged. Perhaps they're thinking of Yamaraj, but who is this God? Does he spend his time just on a throne, a faceless being? And then others, like the Muslims, they say, oh, you can't draw a picture of him. There's no conception of him. He's a person. But what kind of person? You can't even begin to draw a picture or have any iconography about him. And therefore, he ends up like when Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked the question to an imam in Dallas one time. So, what's Muhammad doing now in heaven with Allah? And the imam was struck. He couldn't answer. And then he said, he's merged into God. That's all he could come up with. So that's what they can come up with because they don't know anything. And we don't know anything except that we're fortunate enough to be able to read Prabhupada's books and the books of the Goswamis and the books of the Vedic literatures. The mind is the leader of the senses. So the activities of the mind, thinking, feeling, and willing, are expressed through our senses. And these central activities are known as our living condition. Therefore, the Lord says, when one shall be free from mental speculation, then he's to be understood that he is in the perfect stage of spiritual consciousness. So if we come free from mental speculation, then we're at the stage of pure spiritual consciousness. That's the first thing. It's not to have some vision or some kind, the mental speculators, or they'll come up with something thinking that that's a higher vision. First thing we have to do is say that whatever higher vision we have isn't higher. It's just made up, ultimately. Mental speculation. So by mental speculation, we cannot understand what is our position. Generally, people, they indulge in mental speculation. Different philosophies of the world, they are established on the principle of mental speculation, especially in Europe. Aristotle, Schopenhauer, Kant. These are all great philosophers at different times. Aristotle, of course, he's the disciple of Plato, who's a disciple of Socrates. And they progressively became less on target till Aristotle really is quite off target. And then he's very good at enumerating the material world, but very unclear about anything else. Then Schopenhauer and Kant, they are part of a grand contingent of European Christian philosophers who just write book after book after book of trying to figure out what's going on. And they'll come up with something like Descartes, "Cargito ergo sum." I think, therefore I am. He says, oh, I'm a brain, I have a mind, therefore I exist. So, and that's taken as deep, very deep. But it's deeply flawed because he cannot. The transcendental autocrat, as the Bhaktisiddhanta said, who's cannot be understood by the mental speculators with all their whatever, philosophical or scientific apparatus. So let's look again, go back to the scriptures and see what's stated in the Shruti. One verse very important is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse number 2. Na me vidu suragana prabhavan na maharshaya aham adir hi devanam maharshinam sa charva saha. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin and opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages. So here, it's been stated very clearly, even demigods. We can't even conceive of the demigods, how great they are. I mean, if Indra would plop into this room here, we'd all be blinded by the light emanating from him. He's working on a much higher platform than we are. But he can't understand anything. And Brigu and other great sages ultimately can't understand anything. And Prabhupada writes in the purport, no one can understand why this supreme God comes to earth as an ordinary man and executes such wonderful, uncommon activities. Ordinary, put that in quotes, really. I mean, he's ordinary in a way until he doesn't have to be ordinary. In Vrindavan, he appears ordinary, but then these extraordinary things happen, like Mother Yashoda trying to tie Krishna, and then the rope's always 2 inches too short. Not something that would happen in an everyday material reality. One should know then that scholarship is not the qualification necessary to understand Krishna. Even the demigods and great sages have tried to understand Krishna by their mental speculation, but they have failed to do so. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also it is clearly said that even the great demigods are not able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Note that we may know verses, we may be able to quote verses, we may know lots of scripture, but it's not the knowing of scripture that is actually the qualification. It's not necessary. Like the story of the boatman, where Prabhupada talks about the boatman who is rowing across the river, and a scholar gets in the river on the boat, and they'll make a long story short. Scholar belittles the boatman for not knowing anything, because the boatman's illiterate. He's just a simple man, but he chants Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. He has simple faith. So when the storm comes, the boatman says, well, 100% of your life has been wasted because you don't know Krishna. After he had been belittled by the scholar who would say, well, you don't know this, you don't know that, you've wasted your life. No, we don't waste our life by serving Krishna. We gain our life by serving Krishna. And therefore, we need these books. We need Prabhupada's mercy to actually understand how to proceed in Krishna consciousness. Another verse that's very important, the 19th verse of the 7th chapter, Bahunam Janmanam Ante, Jnanavam Mambrapadyate, Vasudevam Sarvamiti, Sa Mahatma Sadurlabhaha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. So it takes a while. And we can't go back to Godhead in one life, but it may not happen because it takes a while. So maybe it takes a few lives. But how many lives have we been here? Can't count them. We've been in every species of life. We've been here forever. I mean, really forever. Prabhupada uses the term. since time immemorial. You know, when we fell, you can't put a date on it. It was before there was time, or you can't even say it's before time. It was out of time. So the fact is that we've been here forever, and now we've come to the point where we can hear Srimad Bhagavatam, we can chant Hare Krishna, we can see the deities, we can associate with devotees. And maybe we have some difficulties in this life, and we don't quite make the grade, you know, we still got attachments. But it's guaranteed there's no loss or diminution in this process, because in our next life, Prabhupada said, if you go 50% in this life, you start your next life at 51%. And therefore, you know, it's certain that a devotee will take birth in a situation where one can become Krishna conscious. But the fact of the matter is that it's a rare thing to become Krishna conscious. How fortunate we are to actually have these books that we can understand. And it's how fortunate we are we met someone who actually comes in the line of Lord Chaitanya. Sometimes I think about the times before I was a devotee, and I was searching for answers. And I was not a diehard Mayavadi. I was kind of in the state that I knew I couldn't be God, but at the same time, I didn't know who God was. So I just, was lost. And I could have met or associated with Mayavadis and become a Mayavadi. It was very easily could have become a big Mayavadi, because they could have explained, I did read some Mayavadi literature, but it never convinced me. Or I could have met some bogus person who would teach me something else, but I met Prabhupada. And the younger devotees have met devotees who knew Prabhupada. Actually, I met devotees who knew Prabhupada. I met Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Vishnu Jan Maharaj first. And they would convince me on behalf of Prabhupada because of their potency. So this is so important that we actually come to this platform of knowing that we don't know, and knowing that we can know only through the mercy of the great souls like Srila Prabhupada. So that leads to the one verse I want to end with, which is another of Lord Brahma's prayers, later in the 14th chapter. It's verse number 29. And he says, "My Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many years." So here's Lord Brahma, the most intelligent person in the universe, the person who is like the secondary creator. He is the secondary creator. In a sense, he's the creator of everything in this universe, because he's given that position. So he's the top. And he's saying that the Lord can be understood if one is favored by a slight trace of mercy, then one can understand. But if one goes on speculating and trying to uncover the truth through some kind of philosophical or scientific process, one will never understand. And we live in a world today where everybody thinks that way. Therefore, that's why we have to be on Harinam, we have to be distributing literature, we have to be distributing prasadam, we have to have programs, because everyone is thinking in this other way. And we have to give them a chance to have even a trace of the mercy of the lotus feet of the Lord. And Prabhupada's disciples, they wrote a purport here. It's very nice. Lord Krishna is very eager to bestow his mercy upon the conditioned living beings who are uselessly struggling with the Lord's illusory energy, Maya. The conditioned soul struggles for happiness through sense gratification and for knowledge through mental speculation. So these are the two big ones here, karma and gyan. The karmis, and there are no real karmis anymore because everybody's acting without regulation, but those who want to elevate themselves to the heavenly planets where they can enjoy wonderful sense gratification for a really long time. So long it's inconceivable. That's why the demigods are called deathless, even though, of course, they die. And the demigods like Indra, they're just flashes in the pan in the time of Brahma. Brahma lives for 311 trillion years, and I'm not sure how long Indra lives, but it's not close to that. But it's a long time. So people, they want to have sense gratification for a long time. And in some religious systems now that don't follow any kind of Vedic process, their whole prayer is, oh Lord, let me just enjoy. And if I can enjoy in this life, then in my next life, which will be the afterlife, it'll be heaven, and I'll be with my family and my grandma and all this stuff. So they want that. That's what they're praying to God for. And then the mental speculators, they just want to figure it out. What's behind the whole thing? We're in the matrix, and we want to figure the matrix out. And when we figure out the matrix, then we're good, because then we're out of it. Well, that's nothing compared to going to a place where we eternally serve Krishna in our original spiritual identity. And so, they go on to say, both processes ultimately bring him, the living entity, to a morose and hopeless condition. Especially science brings us to a hopeless condition. It's all random chance. It all they get to the point where they say things like, here's their eternity. We're all made of the same elements that were there at the Big Bang, and we're all stardust. Well, great. What's that mean? That when your body's eliminated, it's just going to be combined into something else, and, what is this? It's all material. And it's hopeless. We live in an empty universe. It's vacuous, full of dangerous things like black holes, exploding supernovas, and we're on this one little planet, which is, very fortunate because it has the right elements to be alive. That's pretty hellish. But if the conditioned soul surrenders to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and thus acquires even a trace of his causeless mercy, the whole situation is changed. And the living entity can begin his real life of bliss and knowledge in Krishna consciousness. Turn away from all this darkness. What is it? Nescience is darkness, Godhead is light. Where there is Godhead, there is no nescience. But BTG motto. Light always wins. Someone comes in here with a box, they can't open the box and make the room dark. You can't do that. The box opens and it becomes light. Krishna's light is brighter than the Maya that we're in. But because we're so conditioned, we just don't want to take off our blinders. So Lord Prabhupada comes to America so many years ago, and he says, take off your blinders. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we take off our blinders. Om Jnana Timarandasya, Gyanan Shalakaya, Chakshu Unmilitan Gyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Oh Gurudev, you open my eyes which were blinded. So with the what? The light of transcendental knowledge. That light of transcendental knowledge comes to us every day. You can read the Bhagavatam, read Chaitanya Charitamrita, chant the holy name, see the deities, associate with devotees, and envelop ourselves in the transcendental bubble of Krishna consciousness. And then leave the bubble, but take the bubble with you. And give books, chant, do something to give others Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Sitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Agom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobha
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakale Priya Priti Manti Vasyan Dipan Dikayanti Chiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtatadishatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,